We're back at you with gloves off, and today we have one of our pillars of our community here, our District Attorney, Chilo Alaniz.
Thank you, Professor.
No, thank you for being here, and Counselor Guajardo with us. We're going to be touching base on a huge question of domestic violence, abuse, stalking. What can somebody do to protect themselves legally, and which way is the correct path to take? And District Attorney, what do you say to somebody that comes in that is being in an abusive situation, and what are the different aspects of that? What can that woman do or man do?
Okay. First of all, Professor, I want to say thank you for inviting us on to your show, Gloves Off. Really honored to be here and share and have you come up with this topic, a very important topic in our community. This is a very important topic across the country, in the state of Texas and here locally, and that is the issue involving, crimes against women specifically is what I'm referring to. Not that a male can't be victimized, but
Sure.
The overwhelming majority of cases that we see in our office when they involve abusive relationships that escalate to assaults, sexual assaults, and ultimately sometimes murder. It involves male on female, and the statistics don't lie. In 2017, we had 60 harassment cases in our office. Warrant applications for harassment, 293. Stalking cases, we had 15. And then cases that continue to grow, maybe because of social media, the publishing or threat to publish intimate visual material. We had 6 of those cases. And so the premise behind crimes against females is one of power and control, intimidation. Okay, those are the tools that the perpetrator will use in order to carry out crimes against women.
Okay. I've been teaching now going on. I started when I was 18 in Dallas. So I've taught not only here, I've taught in France and many other countries. And there's a lot of women going into the martial arts. Okay. And there's a lot of women that always look towards learning the kick-punch game. Mm-hmm. But many are more concerned about self-defense. And many that cross through the doors of my school, and many others of my colleagues, is that they're looking to defend themselves from an ex, whether boyfriend or husband, or they're there because their girlfriend was in a type of situation that they do not want to go through. Okay, and many of the questions is, what happens if you start getting stalked? What is stalking? What is the definition of stalking? What can one do to start that process to end that?
Well, the first thing would be for that person to alert the cops. 911. Stalking is usually following that person in more than one location. So if it already happened once, you document it, you tell the cops. If the guy continues doing it, then the investigator will investigate the case, come to our office, and if we do have probable cause that this suspect is in fact stalking this ex-girlfriend or ex-wife or whatever, then we can probably go forward with a warrant, and that suspect will probably get arrested. And stalking, I believe it's a felony 3.
That's correct, and I want to add the very important element for your viewers that let's begin with that stalking is a pattern of malicious behavior. Okay? Now, malicious behavior is easily defined when somebody wants to cause harm on you. Mm-hmm. The main thing that I want your viewers to understand is that if you fear for your personal safety, that this individual is on establishing a pattern, making overt threats, communicating to you by text or verbally or in any other fashion, that they're going to harm you, harm your person, your body, cause physical harm on you. I mean, you have to document that, make a report, take pictures of the text messages where he says, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to hurt you, I'm going to make you pay for what you did to me. Whatever it is, that's evidence that we're going to need as prosecutors to be able to go to a court and trigger the mechanisms to protect you. We have procedures in place that allow police officers to be well armed with legal documents to protect you.
Correct. Is that something that you see here in Laredo, stalking?
We're seeing a pattern, and just like in every community across the state, you know this, and this is something obviously that you teach in your classes with your students, that evil exists in our world, and that's just reality.
That's it.
Okay, and so what we want to do is with on our side, on the legal side, is be able to give protection, legal protection to victims of domestic violence or involved in a violent relationship. Stalking does happen in Laredo. We see cases coming in of college students, ex-girlfriends, wives being stalked by ex-husbands. Unfortunately, we've even seen where there's a documented case of a Laredoan who was killed in San Antonio, a student who was stalked by an ex-boyfriend and murdered. Most recently we completed the Dale trial of this defendant who shot and killed his ex-wife, shooting her 7 times. And the thing that we want to, and I'm glad that's why we're here on your show, is to promote for your viewers to be alert of your situation. Typically the signs are there.
Yep.
This is these aren't types of flash bang events that just happen. There's always a story and there's always a history behind these violent offenses.
Of course.
And what we want to do is make sure that your viewers take measures early on.
Now, here's a question. What happens if you have a family member that is alerted by the red flags? Can they themselves start a process?
Yes, sir. I believe domestic violence nowadays is everybody's problem. So if you
Sure.
witness domestic violence at a park, at the mall with a family member, you can approach that family member, talk to them. But if you see it at the park in a public place, you can always call the cop and get your phone and dial 911. So yeah, I think if you're a family member and your sister or your mom is going through something like that, you can always reach out and dial 911 yourself.
That's a good point that you bring up, because we do frequently see cases of siblings intervening
Sure.
on behalf of their mother, or a brother on behalf of a
sister.
sister, and getting involved, making that call to 911, being a witness. And really what I also want to stress with your viewers is this to avoid trying to take the law into your own hands.
Sure.
I think the main thing is to protect yourself, take whatever measures that can be evasive. We have in our office, I should mention, that we have safety plans available. Sure. What do you do? What are different steps you can take if you are in an abusive relationship to protect yourself and your children, from the abuser? Following a safety plan, having a plan A and a plan B before it happens is critical.
Absolutely. Now, here's one. There's a difference between stalking and harassment, right?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Well, stalking is a felony 3. Harassment is a class B misdemeanor, punishable up to 180 days. Felony 3 carries 2 to 10 years in jail. Because for stalking, it's also more than one occasion. And the suspect will put the victim in fear of bodily injury. It's not enough just to follow a person. He needs to do something that's going to place that victim in fear of bodily injury. And again, it's more than one occasion. Harassment can just be a phone call. Hey, when I see you, I'm going to beat you up.
Okay.
So that's pretty much.
Or a text.
A text on Facebook,
Facebook,
whatever, yeah.
social media.
It's kind of a thread, or he can just be calling you repeatedly. Like, he called me 20 times in 1 minute. Telephone harassment. That's illegal. Class B misdemeanor.
And that's the main difference here is one of them will involve fear of harm to your person, which is the stalking one.
Yeah.
And the harassment one is one more of being annoying, obscene, bothering somebody. Typically it's done by phone calls, hang-ups, and so that's why it's a misdemeanor.
Okay.
So there's an escalation. In a lot of these cases, I'm glad you bring that up because there's an escalation. It
Sure.
starts as
It's
harassment.
a harassment, and then it
And
escalates.
sometimes the victim will tolerate harassment. Okay? And when the perpetrator sees that they're getting away with the harassment, then it starts to escalate to stalking. And the criminal or the suspect will get more brazen, more confident to escalate his threats.
Sure.
And that's when you can actually be harmed. So
Sure.
they kind of go hand in hand. Yes.
Now, what happens when it becomes a physical,
Fight?
yeah, or an
Well-
altercation? What's the next step?
That would
Because
be-
you have many that do not report it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of victims that don't report domestic violence, because they don't want to destroy the family. It might be embarrassing, but the first step, like Mr. Alaniz said, is pick up the phone, tell somebody, document it. So if it does become a fight, an assault, that's a class A misdemeanor. Unless if there's serious bodily injury, then it will be a felony too. Or if he produces a weapon, a firearm, a knife, then that can also be a threat with a deadly weapon. That will be a felony too.
One of the patterns that we see, Professor, and this is something that obviously you probably teach, and if not, I would ask that you do teach your students and the law now provides a section. Pedro can speak a little bit about this. He is the chief of the domestic violence unit and is entrusted with leading that unit in the fight against domestic violence. Is the concept of choking.
Sure.
Okay, so what we do see in a lot of domestic situations, what a lot of males do
Sure.
is go for the throat.
Sure. It's an intimidation factor.
It's an intimidation, and it involves like a pinning
Sure.
type of situation, pinning against the wall, grabbing the throat, cutting off the airway. Beto, can you speak about that?
Yes, sir. Yeah, strangulation, it used to be a class A misdemeanor, but it changed a couple of years ago. Now it's a felony 3. So that's when somebody grabs your throat, or they can put a pillow over you. The point is, one of the elements is that you are grasping for air. You can't breathe.
Sure.
Whether he puts a pillow where he has you in a
Chokehold or whatnot.
Or so if you're grasping for air, you cannot breathe. That's a strangulation. That's a felony 3, and there's usually signs. There'll be red markings
Sure,
on
of
the
course.
neck, or red dots around your eyes, in back of your ears. Yeah, and they use it as an intimidation factor. They're strangling that person. She can't breathe, and he's cutting her off or threatening her.
It's a
Sometimes they pass out.
no, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you come into self-defense in the sense of a pugilist art, okay? A pugilist art would be like boxing, so on and so forth. And a self-defense art would be like Kempo, Kido, and so on and so forth, that teaches that.
Okay.
So a lot of people need to be understood, or when they come in, you have to understand exactly what they need.
Mm-hmm.
If a woman was looking for self-defense, well, guide them to what they need to do. Take them to Kempo, take them to Aikido, to something like that. Don't throw them into boxing.
Yeah.
Understand what I'm saying? Boxing is a total different entity. It's not going to teach you what's going to happen with a grab or with a choke or with a pin or something to that effect. So that's where the difference of the arts come in, the styles and so on and so forth. But you do make a good point with the grabbing and the throat, and that's something that I'm glad that it escalated. Now, can that be used to a fight if somebody gets in a fight and is holding somebody down? Can that little
The strangulation?
yeah?
Well, what
know
I've
what I
seen in
mean?
my cases is usually, they strangle the victim, or a lot of times they put the victim on the floor, they get on top of
Sure.
her, and they start with 2 hands. If the girl knows how to defend herself, yeah, it would probably be a defensive fight.
Sure.
But if she doesn't, it's hard to
Of course.
remove that big guy.
Understood.
From you.
Understood. No, that understood. Back in 1994, I used to have my school in Dallas, and there was a Sensei John there that taught Aki-Jitsu and so on and so forth. And we had a psychiatrist. Her name was Kay Shack, and they did a study in Kaufman, Tarrant, and Dallas County on rapists, on what they were doing. And a chokehold was the number one. The chokehold and a punch to the face and thrown to the ground. The majority of those that they interviewed was that. So we developed a program called Women's Perfect Protection that was against those. They hold you, they punch you with the right hand, They come from the back, they slap you with the right hand, but everything had
Yeah, the strangulation.
had that factor in it. And it was interesting to see that a lot of these rapists did not have a weapon in their hand. It was basically, you know what?
Mhm.
They hit you, knock you down, throw you to the ground, and
I saw something in HBO about UFC fighters or MMA fighters.
Sure.
That usually that's their one of the moves that they use a lot, the strangulation.
Mm.
You know, they get them and they pass out.
sure.
I don't know how many of them use, but I did. I don't know if it was HBO or Showtime, but yeah, MMA fighters usually do the chokehold.
Because it's geared for more of that type of element.
yeah.
But you know, and but basically, if somebody's going to grab you with their hand, the right hand's going to be followed. Usually, it's going to be, I'm going to hold you and I'm going to
Yeah.
pop you. So if they're grabbing you with a hand in the choking, it's going to be, maybe they do it the first time, the second time, the third time, boom, the fourth is going to be coming with a punch. It's always going to escalate.
Always.
And once they punch you, then they're going to punch you with the left and this
It
and
usually does. Yeah.
so it's not something that just ends there. It's something that takes time, and it's just you're building on top of that. So we need to, when women, especially women, when you're out there, when you start seeing these red flags, act on it now. And
Correct.
brothers, mothers, fathers, when you see that from your daughter or a friend, act on it. Get some counseling
Or report it.
or report it.
Mhm.
You know, that's what I was asking. Can a brother call and say, you know what, I think this is going on with my sister? Or you know what, my neighbor's going on with this. And you don't want to be a nosy body, you know, one of those that's always looking. But,
Definitely.
there, you know,
should.
we have to stand up for that.
No, we do. Let's keep something else in mind. Something that plays a big role in these crimes is the intimidation factor.
Sure.
So the victim may be under the threat of more physical harm. So it is, I think, incumbent on family members and friends to step in
Sure.
and be a voice for this person. You know, the unexplainable black eye.
Huh?
You know, the redness around the neck, the finger marks left, or the bruises on the arms. A lot of these perpetrators will also strike to the head
Mhm.
because the hair can hide the bruising. But if, you know, once you move the hair and look at the scalp, you can actually
See the bruising and the
see the
hematomas.
bruising.
Right?
So, or the perpetrator may strike the victim in places that's not
The
easily
stomach and
seen.
so on and so forth,
Stomach,
right?
the buttocks,
Mhm.
you know, the legs, and so. But it's so important that your viewers and our community, you know, continue to step up and protect, you know, one another. This is my office. The domestic violence unit is one of the flagships of our office. We strive to always have programs and be innovative in protecting and implementing mechanisms to protect people, and of course children as well. So, you know, the goal is always to break this cycle and to hold these perpetrators accountable. That this machismo, this domination, these threats that I'm going to get you deported, or whatever it may be, okay? Don't let that go into your mind. You have protection with the state of Texas, and we will, when the evidence is there, we will go pick up this individual, incarcerate him, prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law.
I'm glad for that. Now, here's another one. If they go to the police, start the paper trail. That's number one before they get to your all's office, correct?
Correct.
Or can they go directly to your all's office?
Well, they can go and maybe apply for protective order. The suspect doesn't have to be arrested for protective order. Protective order is civil. So yeah, sometimes victims of domestic violence, they can go to our office without calling the cops. We start the process of the protective order. If we believe that there's a crime and the person should get arrested, then we can always call LPD. LPD will come to our office, and the victim at that time will write a complaint, and then an investigation will start.
And that can happen, but I'm going to recommend to your viewers that for purposes of the most effective cases, always
call the police.
call 911 or the police station at 795-2800. Document the report. Take pictures.
Sure.
We all have our cell phones. If it's your cousin, your sister, your mother, whoever it is, your daughter, your friend, take pictures of the injuries, you know. document it. That's evidence that can be utilized, and it'll date stamp it. It'll tell us the location, where it happened. Go fill out that statement, and
Do we have witnesses too?
The witnesses that comes to our office. All of that we need in order to get the process going to give you better protection. If there's somebody out there listening that is concerned and is maybe thinking somebody they know is a victim, we at the office are here to help. You can come by. We can give referrals also.
Mhm.
Maybe it hasn't gotten to the physical violence, but hey, my husband's under a lot of stress, or this or that. Where can I get counseling?
Sure.
We can, because our goal is this, Professor, and I want to put this out there. We don't want to break up the family unit. People, we're all human, and we all have high stress jobs and situations, these external stressors that happen in our lives, and we all sometimes lose our cool. But if there's a way that we can help people, including the abuser or potential abuser, deal with his stress, well, we want to do that.
You're already, how can you say, cutting it from the get-go, from the start.
Try to be proactive. Try to be proactive.
And I think those programs are very much needed. Everybody talks about, you said machismo, and we grew up here in Laredo. Everything's machismo this, machismo that, and that's not what it is. Being an alpha is not that. Okay, being alpha is being concerned about your family, about being a leader with somebody else.
Correct.
If your buddy is having trouble, go out there and sit down, have a beer with him, and talk to him. What's going on? That's what it's, that compassion that's there. But everybody wants to make this machismo stuff. I'm the toughest guy in the block. Man, it ain't gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So, and we see that. We live in that culture that's here, and machismo is a word that is used and expected by many. But no, it's not. And sometimes you have to cry. You know what I'm saying?
And it's interesting you say that, because that culture is so prevalent in our cases.
Sure.
We look at this individual that got in a shootout at the Stripes with the police after killing his girlfriend. It's one of those things where jealousy was present. Didn't like, wanted to basically control the ongoings and daily activity of their girlfriend or spouse, and this whole notion of control and power and trying to dictate. We don't. Nobody here owns anybody. It's a
absolutely
situation
correct.
where people need to be treated with dignity, with respect. That's the type of society that we live in. Perhaps there's some societies out there, I don't know, in the interior of the jungles of Mexico or somewhere where this type of this type of culture exists, but not today in the state of Texas, the United States.
No, it does not exist, and it won't exist, and we have to keep that alive.
Exactly.
Understand? And we have to keep that alive, and that's what happens. We see that here. You have to be the toughest guy. You grew up with that. You're like, and you see it, and that's not what it's all about. You have to live life. Let's touch base on something you talked about: protective order. A protective order, because you're saying here, you also with employment, with school, and all this other stuff. What does that else encompass? What happens if the person's in school and is getting harassed? Can a protective order come from there?
Yeah, if the suspect is 17 and up, we can help that victim applicant with a protective order. In that case, if we do get a protective order, then the school is going to have to tell that other student, the suspect, maybe to go to another school, because there will be a 20 yards restriction there.
Sure.
If the suspect is below 17, then it will be the county attorney's office, which this is a juvenile.
Sure.
We only deal with 17 and up.
Sure.
College, time of use, same thing. There are going to be conditions that the respondent or the suspect has to respect.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he can get arrested for a violation of protective order, and that would be a Class A. If he does assault her while he has a protective order against him, then it will be a felony 3, even though he only caused bodily injury because he assaulted her. So usually protective orders are Class A misdemeanors because they violate the conditions of 200 yards, harassment, or whatever. But if the suspect does assault her, then it will be a felony 3.
What's your definition of assault? Is it a punch or is it a grab?
Well, assault Class A misdemeanor means inflicting bodily injury, pain. Like if I go like this to you, your forehead, and it hurt, that's an assault Class A. Pulling the hair, no evidence, but I pull the hair and it hurt you, bodily injury, an assault Class A. Now, an assault serious bodily injury felony 2 would be, that you can likely to cause death. Like if I get a baseball bat and I'm hitting you with a baseball bat and you're all injured, I broke your arms, that would be SBI, serious bodily injury. Or if I threaten you with a deadly weapon, then that would be also an ag assault felony 2.
I wanna interject and tell you, Professor, that in 2013 our office began a pilot program for emergency protective orders through our work with LPD, the Sheriff's Office, and the JPs. Thank you to them. This program, Emergency Protection Plan program, it's one of the first of a kind in the state, automatically deters detained alleged offenders who may retaliate. It seeks emergency protective orders on every domestic violence arrest. So in a nutshell, basically what it does is somebody's arrested for domestic violence and they're booked with assault domestic violence. Our office will serve them with an EPO, an emergency protective order. So when this person makes bond, one of the trends that we see across the country and the state and even here in our own community is that when the perpetrator is released from jail, okay, what's the first thing he's going to do? He's going to go back to intimidate
what happened,
the
blah, blah,
victim.
blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
He's going to go back and say, why did you call
Sure.
the cops? It's going to be that knee-jerk reaction, that anger, that how dare you do this to me, the
Sure.
alpha.
Sure.
And so this emergency protective order, while a guy's sitting in the cooler, he gets visited and says, listen, this is an EPO. You are not to go back to this address. You go back to this address, we're going to pick you up again, okay? If you need your clothes, your personal belongings, send your mother, your brother,
Whoever.
your friend over there to go get your clothes. It'll be on the front steps. You can get your toothbrush, but don't go near that house, okay?
Counselor, how many break that? What's the number? How many respect it and how many break it?
I don't have the numbers, Professor. I could tell you though that we have a pretty since we've implemented this.
Do they respect it?
We've had a reduction
Okay.
in recurring offenses, and that's a very good number, a very good question, because what we're doing is diffusing the bomb before
Sure,
it goes off.
sure.
Okay, that's what the idea. Mr. Albert Perez in my office, one of our domestic violence counselor, came up with this idea. I don't want to take credit for it. He came up with this great idea, and thank you to the JPs and the rest of the law enforcement agencies, because it's so we have this window, right? So when they get arrested, again, they're sitting in the jail and it's an arrest, domestic violence, that we do serve them a signed order by a judge.
Sure. It's
and,
automatic.
And it's automatic for at least they can't go back there for at least the first 5.
A misdemeanor is 30 days. A felony like strangulation, felony 3 would be 60 days, and a felony with a deadly weapon would be 90 days. So,
And so we won't even entertain removing that emergency
can't.
protective order until at least 5 days.
about
Okay, so for example, in the real world, so the victim after the arrest is still afraid. What do they want to do? They want to take the charges off. They want to let the perpetrator back into the house. Okay, we don't even allow that, because the decision you're asking us to do is not the right decision. Okay, what we're going to do, the state's intervening. You can't make this request until at least 5 days go by, so that you can actually process what's happening. We want you, the victim, to be safe from the perpetrator. Understand that we're helping you break the cycle of violence, and that he won't be coming around and bother you. If he shows up, even if you give him permission to show up, he's still violating the protective
Sure.
order. And that's something I need victims to understand too. Say, well, everything's cool. Come back over to the house. There's a protective order. He's going to get arrested again if it's reported.
But you do have a lot of women that will take off the charge, will drop the charges.
yeah, a lot of victims will come to our office or go talk to the defense attorney and do an affidavit of non-prosecution or a complaint withdrawal from our office. But if we have enough evidence, we have, let's say, pictures, a video, we have a voluntary statement from the victim, it's up to us. Most of the time, we usually don't just dismiss the case. It depends on the evidence that we have. Even though the victim is crying that she wants the case dropped, it's pretty much up to the state of Texas and how much evidence we have. Can we go forward without the cooperation of the victim? That is the question that we have to ask, and if we can, we do go forward.
And it is a case-by-case
Yeah.
decision, Professor. Again, we understand why sometimes victims want to take away the charges.
Sure.
But we look at so many factors, the history, how many times they've made reports, the strength of the case, the evidence that we have, because, so if you're asking, can we proceed without the cooperation of a victim? The answer is yes, we still can proceed. Of course, again, if we can, in some instances, if the family unit can be reunified, there's programs that we also work on getting counseling. But
If it's a family, if it's not, then
no, if it's not, again,
Each one-
we have the victim's best interest at heart. That we want to make
Sure.
sure that they're safe. So whether it's a girlfriend with a violent boyfriend, or a wife with children. Another trend that I wanted to mention that we're seeing, and I would need to advise all your viewers to be careful with this whole notion of sexually explicit photos and videos with your boyfriend, okay,
or vice versa.
or vice versa.
Yeah.
And this thing about what's commonly known as sexting, and because we've seen an increase in revenge porn and also the publishing of sexually explicit
Material. Is
And-
what? How many laws does that violate?
Pedro?
Well, that would be internet. It can be internet harassment, revenge porn. Usually, when somebody puts up a video of his ex-girlfriend, having sex or whatever, or pictures of just her naked, as a revenge tactic, you broke up with me. Now I want everybody to see this video or this pictures of you. That can pretty much be internet harassment or revenge porn. So there's all those laws that violate it. And he can definitely get arrested for that. Even though he claims, well, it's my video, it's my pictures. No, I mean, it wasn't a private moment, you and your girlfriend, and now you're putting those pictures as a revenge tactic,
Is that seen more now because of the
We're
social
sta-
media
we're
and
starting
trends
to
and
see it a
everything
lot
else?
more.
Do you
Well,
start to see it?
we
What's the age group factor?
well,
on
again,
that?
what,
You know
we're,
what I
what
mean?
we're this kind of transcends all ages, but there is a spike in teenagers.
Really? Yeah.
In the state of Texas, you're an adult at the age of 17.
Sure.
And I send this warning to all the young males out there that if your idea or you're thinking that because your girlfriend broke up with you and you've got some pictures of her that you want to burn her and embarrass her and humiliate her, and you
Get nailed.
publish those pictures on social media or with your friends, you will be arrested and prosecuted by my office. Your future will be affected. It's not a game trying to humiliate and intimidate and embarrass people.
And that is absolutely something that you have to, how can I say, not go on a crusade over, but it has to be stern. It is done and it's
definitely-
done. You know what I'm
yes,
saying?
and this
So-
goes for males and females. This thing about, as it is when you're sharing your most intimate moments like that with a partner, I need to caution young girls out there, think about what you're doing before you press that send button. Things go bad, that relationship goes bad, and you have a malicious person on the other side, the entire community can see those pictures.
And it's sad because it's happened. We had a young lady that happened to, and she was in college. And
Exactly, and it does happen, but there are measures that you can take to protect yourself from those types of crimes also. But the important thing is for your viewers to know that is a violation of the law in the state of Texas, and if that evidence is taken to the police, the perpetrator will be arrested for publishing those sexually explicit images or for revenge porn.
And internet harassment, you said about internet harassment. What is that?
Pretty much the same thing, or if it's just harassing her, threatening her or talking bad about her, annoying her, alarming her through Facebook or Instagram, or I don't know how many other social media apps there are. Yeah, because you can harass or bully somebody online, and that can be also internet harassment. My ex-girlfriend used to like this, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah, or
okay.
she was just annoying her, alarming her, just talking bad about her. That can also be internet harassment.
The first step will be what? To block them, number one. Let's say they're on Facebook. Let's look Facebook as the medium here.
Okay.
And they start talking bad. That person that's being harassed, should they block that other person? number one?
Well, I mean, I'll call
Report it?
the cops, or yeah, I'll make a complaint right away and then let them handle it.
Well, I think what's going to happen is this, Professor. I think that first and foremost, the victim should try to secure those images.
Sure.
That's evidence. Okay. Obviously, warning the other individual on the other side that they are going to be reported. What we do see is a lot of these perpetrators try to create these ghost accounts.
Sure.
Or these pseudo accounts.
Sure.
The good thing is that on law enforcement side, we have
Okay.
mechanisms to find IP addresses and trace the accounts. Even though you may send something and then erase the account,
It's still there.
We
There's-
have preservation letters. We have ways of working with the social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, whatnot, to try to get the evidence in our hands. But you know, if somebody is on social media being harassed and a victim of revenge porn, the thing is to secure, preserve those images, those communications. Obviously, they can also report them to Facebook. Facebook has a security department that they can be informed that this other user is doing this. Report them to law enforcement.
Sure.
And also send the person
A
and,
message
and
and-
anybody else posting saying this is going to be reported to law enforcement. If you do receive this image, do not forward it. This case is going to be reported as a criminal act.
You know, and I see social media, and most of those applications, it says you have to be over 17. And you have 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds and everybody else on it. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you know what I mean?
That's
Yeah,
the
you-
reality. Everybody's on this bus.
You know, so
everybody's
you're
getting
like,
on it, and
where does it stop? Where does it, you know, once more, parents be vigilant, number
Yeah.
one. You know, if your kid has an account, you better have the password to get in there, you know. And
Most definitely.
I think
yeah.
that's what us as parents, when stuff like that starts going under with 17 and under, it's our responsibility.
well, we were talking about that earlier, Professor. You brought up a good point. And I always tell parents that the internet is like let's just say a physical playground
Sure.
out there. How many of us would drive up to a playground on a major road, let's say McPherson, open the door to your vehicle, and let your 6-year-old jump out and
By
say,
himself.
"Well, I'll pick you up in 5 hours." That's totally irresponsible. Or your 7-year-old or your 8-year-old without supervision. Well, that's what the internet is. It's a huge playground, and there's predators there. So parents need to be involved and look for the red flags when there's adults wanting to befriend young kids.
Or they start liking, parents post pictures of the kids in Halloween or whatnot, and all of a sudden messages start going out, or that picture is being shared by others. Hey, what's going on here? You know, that has to stop.
There's a lot of sick people out there.
Yeah.
Okay, there's dangerous individuals out there that are surfing the internet. A lot of pedophiles are looking for images of children in bathing suits.
And we have to nail them.
Yeah, we
Plain
do.
and simple, you know, and it's not your all's office, it's the whole community in one. And, you know, this is going on. Let's all get behind it, or else it's never going to go away.
Correct. And so, let's monitor our kids. Any young people who are listening to your show, watching your show. I mean, they have to be careful. This thing about befriending
Sure,
adults,
sure,
and
sure.
exchanging, information.
I was looking at this documentary of a couple of guys that were in London, I believe. Okay, and they started busting pedophiles, and they had the police and literally busting pedophiles. Now, we can't do that here because all of a sudden we'll be labeled as vigilantes. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that'll be true or not, what the case. But they were actually targeting pedophiles, and they'll do this, and all of a sudden you have 4 or 5 guys going into a hotel room, and they'll be calling the police, and the police will be picking them up, especially in London.
Wow.
It was going on, and it's a documentary. And if I'll find it, and I'll send it to you for you all to see what they were doing. And it was the best thing I saw. I thought, thumbs up because they were doing that. But here in the United States, I don't think we can.
Well, we do have it here, like in the U.S., and we're kind of branching out here into
A different
topic.
topic.
But For example, DPS has a website
Sure.
on registered sex offenders in our community, and I can recommend to the viewers to get on the DPS website, and you can type in your zip code,
And they all
then
come out?
It should come out who lives in the area. When we're dealing with the other topic of child abuse or sexual abuse of children, that's another topic for another day. But again, there are mechanisms in place to protect victims of violence, domestic violence, or just assaults, people
Sure.
who are involved in relationships in our office. Our phone number at our office, 523
4900.
4900,
That's-
523 4900, for any questions. We do work with a lot of partner agencies. So we are a prosecution office first and foremost, so the cases get prepared by law enforcement agencies and they're brought to us. But we have a very well-trained staff, very dedicated staff that's on hand to make Laredo a better and safer place.
Sure. So let's go back with what you all counseled on was number one, make a paper trail, right?
Yes.
Start
That's
off by
recommended, yes.
taking
Documenting.
document all Texas and
Take pictures, I mean-
call the police,
Record it, yeah.
and then call your office.
Well, the police will take care of it, and that case will come to our office.
Eventually,
Yeah.
our office, the case takes a while to prepare, but eventually the case will end up in our office, and we have victim counselors that will kind of guide the victim as to what the process entails. The criminal justice system sometimes works slow, but we have safety plans in effect.
If it's slow, that's a couple of weeks, okay? Now let's say that it's getting worse. What happens to that? What's the protection that individual can have?
It's getting worse towards the victim, or?
Sure, towards the
okay.
victim.
Is she back with the?
No,
defendant?
let's just say that the stalking got worse, got more physical, it's getting worse now.
Then it will be just, if she reports it, it will be another case. I mean, some individuals have 4 or 5 cases, that happen within 30 days. It can be an assault, retaliation, harassment, stalking, like, come back with me, I cannot live without you, blah, blah. So yes, sometimes there's 3 arrests in 1 month. But at that time, we have all those cases, and we file all the 3 cases. And there are safety plans. I mean, we have Casa Misericordia also, where the victim doesn't have a place to go. She can always go to Casa Misericordia. Like Mr. Alaniz was mentioning, we have counselors, we have victims coordinators that we can help them, help the victim standing her own 2 feet with her children, just away from the suspect. We just want the safety of the victim. We want the victim to feel safe and to feel that she can do it. She can break the cycle. She can delete that guy.
It's that confidence level.
And it's important that we put this out there too, Professor, that everyone in Texas is entitled to a bond under our Constitution. So a lot of family members will come and complain to me and say, Mr. Alaniz, why is he out? How did he get out if he just beat up my daughter? So, and that is the law, that people are entitled to bail, and that people are presumed innocent in our country. The Constitution does give everybody the presumption of innocence, and there is a court date to find the person guilty or he
Sure.
pleads guilty. But 95% of the time, the perpetrator is going to get out of jail. So what, like Mr. Guajardo says, is important. When he does get out of jail after that 48-hour period, or what's the hold on domestic violence?
About 48. Mm-hmm.
There's a 48-hour period that, in cases of domestic violence, that the perpetrator will be held before he can make bond. But he's going to get out. The question is, what are you going to do when he gets out? What plan do you have? You need to have a plan A and a plan B. Because people are entitled to bond, and I think that the best advice I can give the viewer out there, that if you have a plan and you utilize the resources that you have, and you have that protective order, and the perpetrator knows this, what we've seen is that when you expose the perpetrator, when you bring them from the darkness into the light, that's when they cower. That's
of course.
where they're cowards, because
The ones that have a sense.
yes, the ones that do have a sense, because they've been controlling you in the privacy of your home or in your relationship. But now when you bring them out to the light and DA's office is involved. Law enforcement is involved. Now you're evening the score,
Yep.
and that helps females feel more secure and safe.
You see, you have a lot of men. We're going back to what we were talking before. That intimidation factor exists,
The control,
boom,
yeah.
boom, boom, whatever, and all of a sudden they get into a situation, they get into trouble, they see the reality of the matter, and all of a sudden they're not that big. They understand their level of the food chain is not there. They're right back here, and that changes. That changes a bit. Those that will not abide by whatever bond is there or protection order is on them are the ones that do not care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They don't
Well-
care about the law. They don't care. They're going to go in there and they're going to do it again. And those are the ones you have to be careful with. And those are the ones that slide through our tracks and we never see them.
That's the sad reality of our business that we're in, that we don't have a crystal ball to,
Yeah, exactly
to
right.
predict who's going to go ahead and go do something that's extreme, perhaps trying to kill or seriously hurt a victim. But we do our best that if someone continuously violates the protective order, we'll pick them up again.
Yeah,
Okay, and each
that's-
time what we can do is put a higher and higher
Raise
and
the
higher
bond.
bond. Okay, a higher and higher bond to make it an amount that's going to be difficult for him to
pay.
So that's what we do.
What courts do they fall under?
Courts.
Mhm.
Well, if it's a Class A misdemeanor,
JP?
or a Class B, no, it'll be a county court 1 or 2.
Okay.
If it's a felony 3 or higher, it will be the district court, which will be the
Okay.
111th, 341st, 49th, or 406. JP will be like a peace bond. Now, if there's a protective order and she wants to apply for protective order, 2-year protective order, usually it will be in the district court. Unless if they're already filing for divorce, or there's another pending lawsuit or whatever, then you'll go to that court, which it can be county court or district court.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you all. Anything
Thank
else
you.
to our community you want to say?
I just want to say thank you to our community for their continued trust in our office. I've been in this job now for 10 years, and I'm very proud of the work we do. I love my job. I love protecting our community, the town that I was born and raised in, and I have
Sure.
super proud of the team that I have of dedicated prosecutors, investigators, and support staff, all of us pulling together for one mission. That is, protecting the families, the women, the children, the elderly of Webb County. So we're here to help, and thank you to you. We have a long-standing friendship. Appreciate everything you do in our community, training our young people and females and whoever you teach on how to, self-defense and how to properly use and not to abuse the techniques you teach.
That's another thing. That's what I said, the difference between going into sport and learning self-defense. You're actually teaching somebody to hurt somebody.
Correct.
So you have to have some kind of trust in that person as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes time to build.
Yeah.
Okay, it takes a bond. It's kind of like a family. And you're not going to learn it within 30 days. You're not going to learn it in a weekend. And it's not the answer to an abusive relationship either.
No.
Okay? So for everybody listening out there, if you're in an abusive relationship, get help, get counsel, get help, period. But self-defense and martial arts is not the answer. Okay? It's only going to get you into a worse trouble because, number one, you don't have the technique for it, and if you hit him and he's already there, so it's more likely
Yeah.
it's going to... Now, not saying not to defend yourself. You have all the right, but, don't use this to put the icing over the cake. Do something else, the main problem.
Correct.
And I guess what I have to say or something like that is that we as parents, we have to start teaching our young boys and our young ladies how to respect each other and how to respect oneself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know, somewhere along the line we just forgot about it.
Yeah.
It just escaped us. I know you and we kind of grew up together, and you got in trouble just like your dad was just like mine. There was no HDAD, it was a belt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's the way it is. Now it's different thing. But I want to thank you.
Thank you
For standing
having
up.
us here. Nice
Thank
meeting
you, sir.
Thank you, and keep up the good job. Until next time, here in Gloves Off, you all be safe. Peace.
Thank you.